Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury beauty. Today we have a long-awaited foundation review. We're talking about the SUQQU The Liquid Foundation. And this foundation, I have some first impressions up. I'll leave those down below in the description box. I've been wearing this for well over a month now, whenever this came out, and it has become one of my go-to foundations. So I'm going to show you some clips of application and wear tests and everything while we're talking about this foundation. But I have to say, my first impressions of this, I found that, sometimes it didn't look super great. Like it looked like it was separating a little bit. And I was like, okay, so maybe that was my primer and so forth. And that's kind of what I had in my first impressions. It was kind of a little finicky. Depending on what primer I wore, it looked great or it didn't. And I'm not sure what the change is, whether it's how long I've let my primers sit, or whether, perhaps I made a change in my skincare because I've switched from a heavier moisturizer to a lighter moisturizer now that it's getting warmer. But I have not since had any issues with the foundation. And I have been able to use all of my normal primers with it with no issues. So you'll see here in the demos that I am using the Dior Forever Skin Veil Primer, which is a very moisturizing primer. It's a very dewy looking primer. When I did my first impressions, this is the one that I had a little bit of trouble with, but I have not had that since, and I've worn this many, many times. I typically wear the Surratt Perfectioniste Primer. Again, no issues. Today, I am wearing the Danessa Myricks Balm Powder underneath. I'm wearing the shade Universal underneath the foundation. It gives it a little bit more of a matte appearance. And I've also used it with some of those like glow serums and things like that. And again, absolutely no issues. Putting it straight on top of sunscreen, no issues. So I'm not sure what my initial problem was with it, but I did want to make sure that I was very clear that this foundation is actually super nice. Oh, and I do want to mention that this original bottle was gifted to me a while back. So, and this review is not sponsored or anything. They did not ask me to, SUQQU did not ask me to do this or anything like that. I don't even know if they saw my original thoughts on it. So I just wanted to be clear there, but I wanted to talk about this today because it's become one of my go-to foundations. I've been wearing this one almost every day. This and the Sisley Cushion, they're kind of the two that I'm using the most right now. And this foundation, I just think that it has some really good qualities that are pretty innovative. So just a few facts about this. The foundation comes in 23 shades. I have samples of all 23 shades to show you, so definitely stay tuned. If you're looking for something, we will go through all 23 shades. The foundation's 30 milliliters, and it does have SPF. It ranges depending on the color of the foundation between SPF 15 and 30 for UVB ratings, and it has a UVA rating of PA++. There are 13 different made in Japan botanical extracts in here. They also have hydrolyzed collagen and hyaluronic acid. And this foundation is supposed to envelop skin with a rich, textured, smooth veil of radiance to provide a natural looking finish with high coverage. Feels fit to the skin with no fear of creasing or separating, and you get fresh, luminous skin. So I have to say that that is pretty accurate. If I go and put this on without any sort of primer, just straight on my skin, it has a bit more of a glowy appearance. Definitely not something as glowy as like the Cle de Peau Radiant Foundation, but it does have like a natural glow to it. If I put it on top of a more matte primer, I do get something a little bit more matte on the skin, but again, it looks natural. It doesn't look like I have like a matte foundation on or something like that. That's one of the best things about this foundation is it really does look very natural, very skin-like. One of the best things that I think about this foundation is the new technology that they've used. They're calling it fluid pigment. And basically they took the conventional powder pigment and they liquefied it. So normally when you've got the powder pigment and you put powder on your skin, it spreads out in, wherever the powder's touching it. So you've got little points of powder essentially on your skin, like pixels on like a screen or picture. but the fluid is able to, you know, liquefy and smoothly cover the entire surface in a very thin coating. And so that's why they've liquefied it. So you get a more even finish and it's smooth, and according to SUQQU, it tightly adheres to the skin. So I just think that's really cool, and I can definitely notice a difference. As for which foundation I think this is the closest to me, this reminds me the most of the Koh Gen Do Aqua foundation. However, it has more coverage and it's a little bit less glowy. The Koh Gen Do Aqua is a little bit more of a glowy natural radiance, which I can get from that depending on what kind of base I use and so forth. But this is a little bit more natural looking than the Koh Gen Do. So to me, those are kind of the two closest formulas and match. But again, this, it says it's full coverage. To me, I would say it's medium to full coverage. It's definitely not as heavy and thick of a full coverage as you might think of. Like, for example, the Cle de Peau cream foundation, you know, that's something that's more full coverage to me. This is definitely it's a thinner liquid still. It's serum style. A little bit thicker than a traditional serum foundation, but it's still thin and it gives you a pretty good coverage. Now the color range for SUQQU foundations, they have warm, neutral, and cool shades. All of the warm shades start with a 0. The neutral shades start with a 1, and the cool shades start with a 2. So just something to note there. And I would have to say that overall, all of the colors still range or skew a little bit to the warmer side. So even your cooler shades are not super cool in my opinion. And your warmer shades and so forth everything skews a little bit warmer than I personally expected. So for me, I wear shade 105, which is their lightest neutral shade. And I think it's a really good match. But again, if it skewed just a little bit cooler than it is, that'd be great. The lightest cool tone shade is 210, which is too dark for me. And it's also just a little bit too peachy, if that makes sense. So we're gonna look at some swatches. And I have some clips here showing you the swatches in natural light of all of the different shades. Again, we've got 23 shades. So you can see that on my left arm, I have the lighter shades here. And then on my right arm, I have the deeper shades, but I repeated the last shade from my left arm for sake of continuation, you know, continuity and comparisons. So if you're kind of somewhere in that range, you can get a general idea of, you know, how those compare on both arms. So you've got some clips here in natural light, in direct sunlight, as well as, you know, just kind of inside in studio lighting. And I hope these little clips are helpful. I just want to show you, we've got a swatch here. This is 105 at the top. I'm going to show you a fresh swatch of 105. So you can see, you know, there is a little bit of oxidation, of course. All foundations will oxidize a little bit as they dry, but it's nothing major. There's, for the most part, these colors stay fairly true to what you see in the bottle. We're going to take a look here. This is 035 and that's dry. So let's do a fresh swatch of that one as well. And you can kind of see, again, a little bit of a difference, but for the most part, it stays pretty accurate and pretty true to color. And that's how it's going to wear. These are definitely not ones that kind of change on me throughout the day. And it holds up all day. So I hope this was helpful. And I'd love to know if you've tried this or if you haven't. And let me know your thoughts. I hope having all of these shades here helps you find a match. I know it's a little bit more challenging to shop SUQQU foundations if you are not located, you know, where there's an actual store and you have access to it, like me here in the US. So I requested some samples so that I could share those with you guys, and hopefully you guys can find a good match. And I hope this was helpful. So thanks so much. I will see you very soon. Have a great day.